The origins and development of management. On the threshold of World War II, a few thinkers were just becoming aware of management's existence. But a few people, even in the most advanced countries, had anything to do with it. Now, the largest single group in the labor force, more than 1/3 of the total, are people whom the US Bureau of the Census calls managerial and professional. Management has been the main agent of this transformation. Management explains why, for the first time in the human history, we can employ large numbers of knowledgeable, skilled people in productive work. No earlier society could do this. Indeed, no earlier society could support more than a handful of such people. Until quite recently, no one knew how to put people with different skills and knowledge together to achieve common goals. 18th century, China was the envy of the contemporary Western intellectuals because it supplied more jobs for educated people than all of Europe did, some 20,000 per year. Today, the United States, with about the same population China then had, graduates nearly 1 million college students a year, few of whom have the slightest difficulty finding a well-paid employment. Management enables us to employ them. Knowledge, especially advanced knowledge, is always specialized. By itself, it produces nothing. Yet, a modern business, and not only the largest ones, may employ up to the 10,000 highly knowledgeable people who represent up to 60 different knowledge areas. Engineers of all sorts, designers, marketing experts, economists, statisticians, psychologists, planners, accountants, human resources people, all working together in a joint venture. Now, none would be effective without the managed enterprise. There is no point in asking which came first, the educational explosion of the last 100 years or the management that put this knowledge to productive use. Modern management and modern enterprise could not exist without the knowledge base that a developed society have built. But equally, it is a management, and management alone, that makes effective all this knowledge and these knowledgeable people. The emergence of management has converted knowledge from social ornament and luxury into the true capital of any economy. Not many business leaders could have predicted his development back in 1870s, when large enterprises were first beginning to take shape. The reason was not so much lack of foresight as lack of the precedent. At that time, the only large permanent organization around was the army. Yes. Not surprisingly, therefore, its command and control structure became the model for the men who were putting together transcontinental railroads, steel mills, modern banks, and department stores. The command model, which a very few at the top giving orders and a great many at the bottom obeying them, remained the norm for nearly 100 years. Yeah. But it was never as static as its longevity might suggest. On the contrary, it began to change almost at once as specialized knowledge of all sorts poured into an enterprise. The first university-trained engineer in the manufacturing industry was hired by Siemens in Germany in 1867. His name was Friedrich von Hechner-Altoneck. Within 5 years, he had built a research development. Wow. departments followed suit. By the World War I, the standard function of the manufacturer had been developed. Research and engineering, manufacturing, sales, finance and accounting, and a little later, human resources, or personnel. Even more important for its impact on enterprise and on the world economy in general was another management-directed development that took place at this time. That was the application of management to manual work in the form of training. The child of wartime necessity, training has propelled the transformation of the world economy in the last 40 years because it allows low-wage countries to do something that traditional economic theory had said could never be done. To become efficient and yet still low-wage competitors almost overnight. Adam Smith reported that it took several hundred years for a country or region to develop a tradition of labor and the expertise in the manual and managerial skills needed to produce and market a given product, whether cotton, textile, or violins. During World War I, however, large number of unskilled pre-industrial people had to made productive workers in practically time. To meet this need, business in the United States and United Kingdom began to apply the theory of scientific management developed by Frederick W. Taylor between 1885 and 1910 to the systematic training of blue-collar workers on a large scale. Yes. Scientific way. Yes. They analyzed tasks and broke them down into individual. Yes. Unskilled operations that could then be learned quite quickly. Further developed in the World War II, training was then picked up by the Japanese and 20 years later by the South Koreans, who made it in the basis for their country's phenomenal development. During the 1920s and 1930s, management was applied to many more areas and aspects of the manufacturing business. Decentralization, for instance, allows to combine the advantages of the business, advantages of bigness and the advantage of the smallness within the one enterprise. Accounting went from bookkeeping to analysis and control. Planning grew out of the Gantt charts designed in 1917 and 1918 to plan war production, and so did the use of analytical logic and statistics, which employ qualification to convert experience and intuition into the de-intuitions, information and diagnosis. Marketing evolved as a result of applying management concepts to distribution and selling. Moreover, as early as the mid-1920s and early 1930s, some American management pioneers such as Thomas Watson, Sir at the fledgling IBM, Robert E. Wood at Sears, Lou Buck and George Elton Mayer at the Harvard Business School began to question the way manufacturing was organized. They concluded that an assembly line was a short-term compromise. Despite its tremendous productivity, it was poor economics because of its flexibility, poor use of human resources, even poor engineering. They began their thinking and experimenting that eventually led to automation, as a way to organize the manufacturing process, and to teamwork, quality circles, and the information-based organization as a way to manage human resources. Every one of these managerial innovations represented the application of knowledge to work, the substitution of system and information for guesswork, brain, and toil. Everyone, to use Frederick Taylor's term, replaced the working harder with working smarter. The powerful effect of these changes became apparent during World War II. To the very end, the Germans were by far the better strategists. Having much shorter interior lines, they needed fewer support troops and could match their opponents in combat strength. Yet the Allies won. Their victory achieved by management. The United States, with 1/5 the population of all the other belligerents combined, had almost as many men in uniform. Yet it produced more war material than all the other taken together. It managed to transport the stuff to fighting fronts as far apart as China, Russia, India, Africa, and Western Europe. No wonder then that by the war's end, almost all the world had become management conscious, or that management emerged as a recognizably distinct kind of work, one that could be studied and developed into the disciplines, as happened in each country that has enjoyed economic leadership during the post-war period. After World War II, we began to see that management is not exclusively business management. It pertains to every human effort that brings together in one organization people of diverse knowledge and skills. It needs to be applied to all third sector institutions such as hospitals, universities, churches, art organizations, and social service agencies, which since World War II have grown faster in the United States than either business or governments. For even though the need to manage volunteers or raise funds may differentiate non-profit managers from their for-profit peers, many more of their responsibilities are the same. Among them, defining the right strategy and goals, developing people, measuring performance, and marketing their organization's service. Management worldwide has become the new social function.